thing about the Clintons is that they have a body count that we talk about body counts, and Bushes have a body count. Obama had a body count. Donald Trump really doesn't have a body count, by the way. FDR had a body count. They're so but their body count dwarfs all the others. I mean, it's just incredible, and it's always growing. We saw um, was it the guy a couple years ago, and probably I can't remember. Mark Middleton, I think his name was, who was found hanged and shot through the chest,
Mm.
and they claimed it was suicide. So and when you do, and when the authorities do something like that, they're putting an exclamation part on their corruption, because obviously you can't hang yourself and shoot yourself in the chest. I mean, a 2-year-old knows that, but we're expected to believe that, and you're a crazy conspiracy theorist if you say otherwise. But he was, and Middleton was the guy who signed Jeffrey Epstein into the Clinton White House many times, and just you happen to have that connection. Yeah, that's his connection there. So there's so many of these cases. But going back to, when Clinton was governor of Arkansas, and certainly I have more about that in hidden history, that section of the Clintons, because certainly you had the guards and the troopers that guarded him, and there were so many deaths even among those. I mean, you had Jerry Parks, who was after Vince Foster. We can talk more about that, but after Vince Foster was found dead, he told all his family, "Hey, I'm next. I'm next. They're going to get me." And then, very shortly afterwards, he's driving along, and some car comes by and shoots and kills him while he's driving. And they've never found out who did it. In recent years, they're trying to blame his son, which is ridiculous. But so that's the kind of in-your-face corruption that you see. And we have the boys on the tracks, who I discovered watching a great old show, Unsolved Mysteries, one of the best shows that was on back in the day. They did some really good work, and they had this chilling story about these two teenage boys that were found dead on the train tracks in Arkansas. And at that time, I didn't connect it to the Clintons. And later, of course, it became probably the most famous of the Clinton body count. It was Don Henry and Kevin Ives. And just the story of that is incredible. I became good friends with Linda Ivan Hayes Ivan, who was I mean, Ives rather, was Kevin Ives' mother, and she never stopped working until she died tragically a few years ago. I always tried to get her on my podcast, but she always had health problems. She couldn't make it. But she fed me a lot of information, and again, people can see in hidden history, there was a whole slew of deaths that were never even reported. She talked about that were connected to the boys, but these kids were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were out probably getting high, 15 years old on a summer night, and they came upon a drug drop, and it had to do with Mena, Arkansas, and Clinton was Barry Seal. All those, the usual suspects were connected to that, and they ended up obviously being killed. The Ives family had another coroner come and take a look at it, and they found all kinds of evidence. They'd been beaten and so forth, and but it didn't matter. And the coroner, who was corrupted at that time and ruled on it, was a guy named Fahmy Malek, who was Bill Clinton's basically personal coroner. And he went back to Bill Clinton's mother was a anesthesiologist nurse, and a couple patients had died under her care, and she had been investigated, and this guy Fahmy Malek helped basically excused her, and Clinton kept rewarding him by giving him raises, and he would always basically cover things up for Clinton if he had to, and in this case he covered these boys' deaths up, and it's tragic to see what can happen. And a couple teenagers that have no connection to politics, and like Linda uh, Ives told me, we weren't political. We didn't hate the Clintons. We weren't like big Republicans. We really weren't interested in politics. When somebody kills your kids, and they lie about it, and yeah, everybody gets involved, the media and so forth, it's going to turn you pretty political. And since that time, this death count keeps growing because her daughter, Gail Ives, who I'd become friends with as well, she died mysteriously as well.
Mm.
So, I mean, it was basically, and I tried to find out, from somebody, but it's kind of hard what the story was. But she wasn't old; she was maybe 50-ish, and it's very sudden because I had been communicating with her. So that's just one death, and it spawned tons more. People, I have the list of it. I quoted from her email in Hidden History. All these kids who knew about it, and just look at the way they died. I mean, they're not normal ways, and that's the thing about the Clinton body count is that people don't die in normal ways. They're found dead in the woods, for instance. Like, and God, I'm drawing a blank on the name of the what's the woman's name? God, I'm getting bad on names, Richard. But she was in the Oval Office, and she claimed that Bill Clinton kept trying to feel her up in the Oval Office, And her and her husband had been big contributors to his campaign. And literally at the time she was in there talking to him, um, her husband was already dead. His body was in the woods. They hadn't found him yet. And Linda Tripp actually, who gets involved, that she came in and saw her all looking all disheveled and walking out. She was kind of a character witness for her as well. So it's a huge story. There's so much credit. That's why in hidden history I called the Clinton years Conspiracy Central because it was hard to keep up with them. You had Whitewater, which is kind of confusing, but it appeared like they certainly came out with something. And then you had Hillary Cattlegate, where Hillary Clinton, I think, took $100 and made 100,000 in a year, something ridiculous like that. I forget the exact amount, but
Right.
it's something that you and I couldn't do.
Was that Kathleen Willie that was
Kathleen
groped?
Willie, yes,
Yeah.
yes, Kathleen Willie. Thank you. Yes, Kathleen Willie. That's who that was. And so I don't know. And Kathleen Willie, I communicated with her for a while, and she's one of the many people that just deleted me. I think over some reason she hated Roger Stone. I don't know why, and he wrote the foreword to Hidden History. So it's a shame. I mean, but she certainly went through that, and again, it's just, especially when you look at, you might expect somebody who's down on his luck, a drug addict, homeless, you might expect maybe be found dead in the woods. Maybe a hunter that accidentally gets shot. But this guy was a bigwig Democratic Party donor. What is he doing being found dead in the woods? I mean, that's just, it doesn't fit. And that's what it is about the Clinton body count. Later on in Hillary Clinton's, when she was running for president, tons of new body count. I mean, one of the guys was going to testify against her, and he dropped a barbell on his throat in the gym and was crushed to death. I mean,
Yeah.
how many people that's what distinguishes the Clinton body count. It's like it's so in your face. It's very mafia-like.
Just if you could maybe explain a little bit about the Mena, Arkansas drug smuggling allegations. This was again when Clinton was governor of Arkansas, the CIA supposedly using the airport in Mena as a hub for drug smuggling, and somehow that's linked to the Iran-Contra scandal.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of contriving. The best, to get the most detailed account of that would be the book Compromise by Terry Reid, who I think is still alive, so, to my amazement, but you can't find the guy. I would love to talk with him. That book is amazing. If you read it, you see how Bill Clinton and Oliver North, who is like Bill Clinton's arch enemy for a while when he first came on as a talking head, they were working hand in hand together. Oliver North worked under an atheist named John Cathy. And these guys, they were working together to facilitate the flow of drugs into that airport. And that's what the two teenage boys witnessed. They just happened to be in the wrong place and they witnessed a drop. And so okay, wrong place, wrong time. We have to kill you. And but yeah, Barry Seal was a strange character, and Tom Cruise played him in a movie that was made several years ago. That didn't tell anywhere near the whole story at all. But Seal would later end up being killed naturally, and a woman that was connected to him, I described it in history, killed mafiosa style. I think she was shot through a pillow was put over her head and she was shot or something. Typical mafia style. And so these deaths are everywhere. And Clinton was at the time. You got to remember, Bill Clinton was basically acknowledged by all to be a user of cocaine, and he was locking up. How many people did he lock up as governor of Arkansas for the same thing? His brother Roger Clinton made a joke about it and saying I forget he's called him Smokey the Bear, something. He came up with some nickname. Roger Clinton, of course, was another drug addict. It was like a half brother of Clinton, but they were an embarrassing bunch. But they were, it was kind of like white trash being given lots of power, and because it's just, they were so over the top in their enemies dying. Like one of the women that was she was the wife of Danny Ferguson, and she just kept talking, over and over about all the people Clinton was killing and everything. And she ended up dead, and very strangely. And then her new fiance, like shortly thereafter, he's visiting her grave, and he's found dead at her grave. I mean, you can't even write Hollywood scripts like this. And the media just, at the time, you had Jerry Falwell, of all people, who helped finance a little tape. I had it back in the day, a VHS tape called The Clinton Chronicles. This is before the internet. And it told about all these deaths. And of course, the media deemed, oh, this is crazy. Look at these deaths and tell me there were no suspicious deaths. I mean, maybe you can explain a few, I don't know, but they're all connected to the Clintons in some way, and their body, and again, their body count continues to go on. Before the Obamas lost a chef very strangely in a
So,
water accident.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The Clintons the same way. One of their chefs was murdered. So they have a trail of bodies. It's amazing, and keeping up with it. I have researchers, Chris Graves and Peter Seaguys, that send me stuff all the time. Though, so here's a new one I hadn't heard. I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. But yeah, they're in a class by themselves. That's when I see him still, or when I see her, it's like, and I hear anybody say anything positive about them, or even if he was a great guy, which he wasn't. Uh, this body count. I mean, it's like cheering on Tony Soprano. It's not the morally proper thing to do.